Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation. Today we're going to cover supply chain management and location decisions. This covers chapters 8 and 11 for industrial engineering. And so we're going to know, or this video discuss supply chain. We're going to discuss the logistics networks. So basically the logistics, or the word logistics mean is that it's the overall process of managing how the resources are equipped. So logistics is managing how we acquire resources, from which parts, from which suppliers. So how do we get these resources from different suppliers? This is basically the logistics, what we call. And then we can define also supply chain. So supply chain is a network between a company and its suppliers to produce and distribute a specific product to the final buyer. And so you could say it's more of a connection, a system, a network. It's not something like an entity. It's not a fixed factory or only one distributor or one retailer or one. It's like a network. Supply chain is a network of suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, retailers, companies. They all have this shared network which at the end produces and provides something to the customer. This is supply chain, which is also the logistics network. It's the management of how we acquire our products and from which suppliers, how and who conducts them. So it's basically, and there is a role for that. They call it the supply chain manager. The supply chain manager has his own role, and he oversees the whole supply chain cycle and the logistics of it. So that's the role of the supply chain manager. And so supply chain management now is the objective. So the objective of it, of supply chain management, is to structure. To structure meaning decide about the number and the location of different entities, the suppliers, manufacturers, the distributors, warehouses, our inventories, and retailers. So this is the whole structure of it, is to structure, decide the supply chain in order. What is the goal of supply chain management? The goal of it is to maximize the competitive advantage and maximize the benefits to the customer. That's the whole goal of supply chain management. And we know the competitive advantage is a merchandise which is produced and distributed with the right quantities to the right locations at the right time in order to minimize system-wide costs while satisfying the customer and the requirements of the customer. So that's a competitive advantage. It's like a combination of delivering at the right time, distributing to the right people, the right quantities, the right locations. Like, this is a competitive advantage. Is doing all of this and checking all the boxes for these in order also to minimize the cost and satisfy the customer needs. And so we have here some examples for producing a dress. So this is an example for producing a dress. So how or from where does your dress come from? And now let's see from where do our dresses come from. So we see that dresses come from natural fibers, which are cotton, wool, silk, etc. And also you gotta use oil and natural gases for biochemicals and synthesizing synthetic fiber. And so natural fibers also the cotton, wool, silk, they all get converted and become yarn, which is the spinning, and also fabric, which is the weaving, knitting, and finishing. So these are used for the material. This is the textile companies. Okay, so the textile companies basically produce the yarn, the spinning, okay, and also produce the fabric. Now, after that, also these companies produce petrochemicals and, as we said, synthetic fibers. And then it goes, all of these materials that are produced from first the cotton and the oil, they go to apparel manufacturers, okay, so some of them are in North America. So, and these US German factories design, cut, sew, buttonhole, and iron, okay. They iron all of these, okay, and they sew them, they buttonhole them, design them, etc. And also there are some producers in Asia, so Asian German contractors. They go to domestic and overseas subcontractors. And then, yeah, so in Mexican, Caribbean subcontractors, they have some, yeah, contractors there. So, and then after that, after the product gets manufactured and using the cotton and the wood and the materials produced by the textile companies that produce the yarn and fabrics, they got transferred to all retail outlets. So some brand named apparel companies such as, say, Adidas, Nike, let's call it, yeah, all of these companies, Sunset Sports, all of these well-known companies, even, less well-known companies like regular retailer shops down the street when you go these shops. And so, yeah, so it goes also to overseas buying offices and trading companies, and finally to the retail outlets. So first it goes to all retail outlets, so you could say these are the bigger distributors, and then it goes to retail outlets, which are the smaller ones. And so department stores, specialty stores, mass merchandise chains, discount chains, off-price factory outlet, mail order, others. So yeah, so these are the networks. So it starts with the raw material network, and then component network, then the production network, export network. So this is the export network, okay, or retail outlets, and then the marketing records networks, which are the the department stores and this. And so this is basically saying the same thing. How is the coat made? So the coat is made of different materials and different parts that are basically brought from different parts of the world. So for example, the cotton used for the coat is brought from China. Taiwan specializes in making material for outdoor clothing. Okay, so some specific parts of the jackets here like a pocket and the inner part of the jacket. So this is the work of the production. They bring these materials and they bring them from different parts of the world. So Germany gave the words snap. Yeah, so the word the snap, the fastener in the 1880s. So send the snaps, yeah. So they have the snaps from Germany. From Japan, they get stainless steel for zippers. Okay, so from Japan they produce the stainless steel for the zippers. So zippers for the backpack, Yeah, all of these. And then yeah, this is from Japan. And from Thailand, they have fur, so the fur on the jacket is from Thailand. So you see, this jacket is not just brought from a specific part from the world, or only it's brought from one country. It's brought from different countries, from different suppliers, each different part of this, and then this whole thing is brought together in order to make this jacket or coat. It's very interesting. So in order to make this not something easy, you need to be a supply chain manager to know to do this. Now this is the same idea. I'm not gonna go through every single part of it, but you can see that some parts. So this is for the Boeing 787. Yeah. Let's Google that. So let's see the images. This is it's like, you know, yeah. So passenger airplane for commercial use. So it's brought from different parts of the world also. As you can see, different maybe companies, different parts, England, France, Sweden, Canada, all of these are brought together to make a product. So let's see here. So now here we are talking about cereal manufacturer. So it starts with the farmer. He gives us the grain that goes to the processing facility. He creates the cereal, it goes to packaging, distribution, grocery store, and goes to the customer, because they are also the lumber company, which produces wood to make us the paper boards for the cereal. So corrugated manufacturer, he makes our paper boards, and they take them to packaging, distribute them, grocery stores, and to the customer, and also labels. So there is a label manufacturer who provides us with labels. And now this is also dairy products. So you can see all of the external distributors. We have the customer, of course. Okay, so it starts first from here. It starts from the supplier. So first we have tier 3, which is lumber company, wood, which makes us paper milk, to make us cardboard containers. And we have also chemical extraction plant. So it gives us raw materials, chemical plant, chemicals, plastic container manufacturer, and so all of these are needed. So either they will put the milk in a plastic container or in a cardboard container. All of that is gonna basically go. Also the tier 1. So these are all considered tier 1, the plastic container and the cardboard container, and also the dairy farm. Now tier 2 is considered to be the paper milk. Okay, so the paper from the milk and the chemical plant here. And tier 3 is just the very basic elements that made our tier 1 products. So the lumber company here for wood, the chemical and the extraction plants, and all of these. And so all of this get together, and in order to make us our milk that we drink, the milk you drink. So plastic containers, they go in, labels, they go in, and then cardboards, they go into for packaging, and also the milk, of course. The milk gets processed. Okay, so milk products should get processed first, and it goes to packaged milk products to retail groceries now. And first start with the external suppliers. It goes to internal functions, which include the processing, and that goes to external distributors, which are retails, groceries, and the customer just buys the packaged milk products. And as we can see, we have an automated supply chain. Now there is a supplying industry, which is steel and other metals. This is the whole raw materials supplier industry, rubber, electronics, plastics, glass, textile. That all goes to the bodies, which are manufacturers and okay, so manufacturers and stamping food plants. Okay, so it all goes, and then it goes to body assembling. These manufacturers body assemble and paint, and then we have the components. So manufacturing of mechanical and electronic components is from electronics, wheels, tires, seats, braking systems. All of these are electronic components, windshields, exhausts. Then we have engines and transmissions. Now this is so this is for an automotive supply chain. So like a motorcycle or a car or say scooter even. So engines and transmissions, except scooters are way more similar. But to say trucks and all the other automotive things, and then we have the engines, forging and casting of engine and transmission components. Also, it goes to machining and the assembly of engines, and that's important. It all goes. Each manufacturer provides us with specific components, specific like the bodies, the components, engines. They brought all of this together from the supplying industry and went into the final assembly. And in the final assembly, basically you assemble all of these parts from all of these suppliers, and then you put it to the market. And so we have here some examples. GM's production and distribution network has more than 2,000 supplier plants, 133 parts plants, 31 assembly plants, and 11,000 dealers, which is a great deal. And so the transportation costs was around 4.1 billion, which is a great amount. So basically, just the fact that you are gonna transport these things is gonna cost 4.1 million. Now, GM's inventory is valued at 7.4 billion, 70 WIP, 30 FP vehicles. Decision tools, they are decision tools used to reduce combined corporate cost of inventory and transportation. And there is 26 annual cost reduction by adjusting the shipment size, inventory policy, and routes, which is the transportation strategy. You have here your supply chain. So you can consider a company, product, service for which you have to describe the various stages in the supply chain and the different flow of materials involved. So we have here the strategic importance of location. And one of the most important decisions a firm makes is the location is very important. That's a fact. And there is an increasingly global the importance of location is increasingly global in nature. It has a significant impact on fixed and variable costs. So decisions are made relatively infrequently. They are long-term decisions since it's not easy. Since you do it infrequently and it has a significant impact on your costs, you cannot do them frequently. They are long-term decisions. So consider the strategic decisions, and then once committed, many resource and cost issues are difficult to change. So you need to try to optimize and live with some of your issues. And then we can discuss the location decisions and some key success factors for choosing a specific country. So in choosing a specific country, there are basically specific of success factors that you need to consider, and one of them is the political risks and the government rules and attitudes. You can also consider the incentives. These are important things. So for example, in one country like Germany, they can give you an incentive of 45% of your if you are making like solar panels, they can give you incentives for them. And then the second thing is the cultural and economical issues. Okay, it's an important factor. need to make sure there are no economical issues within the country and the culture itself and the people within it. And then third, the location of markets. So it's important you need to understand where does the market resides in a country, and be able to connect these markets, and because you're gonna need these markets to provide you with materials, provide you with parts, provide you with different stuff for your product or service. And also you're gonna consider the labor, talent, attitudes, productivity, and costs. So that's important. Also labor is important. And then also you're gonna consider the availability of the suppliers, and communication, and also energy. These are all important. And then the exchange rates and currency risks are also an important factor you're gonna consider. So in some countries, the exchange rates could really be an effective factor of that country. And so now consider key success factors for choosing a region or community. Now a region, it's like you say a continent like Asia or Middle East or maybe Europe or etc. So that's a region. Now, or maybe it's more. No, maybe it's like a state. Okay, I think it's the region. What's meant here is like a state or like a city. So let's say like some of the key success factors to choosing that is to have to consider the corporate desires. Okay, your desires as a corporation. What are you willing to accomplish? And then also consider the attractiveness of that region. Okay, some regions are more attractive to say let's say some regions are more attractive for technology, for example. So for example, like some regions are more attractive for some specific areas. So, and you're gonna also consider cost and the availability of utilities, the environmental regulations. These are important. Government incentives and fiscal policies, proximity to raw materials, and land construction and cost. These are important factors. And now you're gonna decide also the site. It's important to consider the site size and cost. How big do you want it? The air, rail, and highway, waterway systems. These are like the infrastructure of the site. It's important to consider them. And the zoning restrictions, proximity of services, suppliers needed. These are all important things. You are considering a system. You are not considering just yourself, your company, you are living. You are gonna make your company in an office or in a building, and then you're gonna ignore everything, ignore all of the suppliers and the infrastructure in that country. They're also going to consider the environmental impact issues and the customer density and demographics, since we are moving toward a more environmentally friendly world. And there are some factors also that affect location decisions, which include the labor productivity, which is a measure of a real output, like the real value added to manufacturing, or like the real value added from labor divided by the total hours worked in manufacturing. So it's like we are counting the number of hours in which someone is producing something. Okay, it's not like on his phone or he's going out or taking a break. These are not considered productivity hours. We are calculating the productivity hours in which person is really working, and it measures how effectively labor hours are converted into output. So, and increases labor productivity, of course, indicate that a country's workforce is becoming more efficient. And we have also unit labor cost. So it's in US dollars per unit labor cost. That's important. So it's just the cost of unit labor. Okay, so the cost of labor in per day, let's say, so dollars per day or per hour, or per month, which can be converted to US dollars, of course, US in currency exchange rate. And then we have the wage rates that are not only the cost. So the wage rates are not the only cost. So lower productivity may increase total cost. If you have a low wage rate but also lower productivity cost, then you're gonna have a problem, since yes, you are saving money on wages, but also you are not producing value. So that's an issue. So you're gonna factor out labor cost per day over the productivity, which are units, basically the number of units they produce per day. This is the labor cost per unit per day, of course. And so if you can estimate the labor cost in, for example, South Carolina, Carolina, it's gonna be approximately $1.17 per unit. As for Mexico, it's gonna be just $1.25 per unit. So it's more in Mexico, so it's more in Mexico, even though the price is less. Okay, so they could be less productive in producing, like labor in Mexico could be less productive, but that's why it could be their wages are less. And so, but in South Carolina, they could be more productive, and that's why their wages could be higher. So you're gonna consider also exchange rates, currency risks. They can impact costs significantly and rate changes over time, and then you are going to consider the costs. They are tangible, easy measurable costs such as utilities, labor, materials, and taxes. These are tangible, but they are also intangible costs, which are not easy to quantify, which include education, public transportation, community, quality of life, infrastructure, and many other things. So also political risks, values, and culture. So we're going to consider the national state, local government's attitudes toward private and intellectual properties. We're going to try to understand what are the incentives, what are the laws of the government, zoning, pollution, employment stability, and also the worker attitudes toward turnover, unions, and etc. There are also the global cultures that have different attitudes toward punctuality, legal and ethical issues. So there is the Corruption Perceptions Index 2018, which has global scores. Okay, so these are the Corruption Perceptions Index, yeah. So we're gonna make sure this is minimized. Okay, so yeah, so the CPI scores. You're gonna take a look at these and consider all of these as important scores. And so also proximity to markets is a very important services. So yeah, so GIT systems or high transportation costs may make it important to manufacturers. And also proximity to suppliers and the proximity to competitors clustering. So it's often driven by resources such as natural information, capital, and talent. So in some specific places, there are gonna be a lot of competitors, since it has a lot of resources such as natural information and capital, and also talent labor. So it's found in both manufacturing and services industry. And there is a rating method. So it's popular because of a wide variety of factors which can be included in the analysis. And there are 6 steps in the method. So these are the steps. So we need to develop a list of relevant factors called key success factors, assign a weight to each factor, and develop a scale for each factor, score each location for each factor, multiply score by weights for each factor, and total the score for each location, and then make a recommendation based on the highest point score. So this is an example, factor rating example. So let's say our first key success factor is labor availability and attitude. It has a weight of 0.25, which is a great weight. And let's say we are comparing France and Denmark, and then we given France a score of 70 for labor availability, and Denmark given it 60. And so the weighted score for France is gonna be just the weight multiplied by the score we gave it, which is 70.5, As for Denmark, it's 0.25 multiplied by 60. And we have also people to car ratio. That's we give it a weight of 0.05. And then there is France, which has, we give it a score of 50. Denmark give it a score of 60. And then we have the weights. So per capita income, we give it 0.1 weight. Tax structure, which has the highest weight here, is 0.39. So we give it a lot of weight because it's gonna be an important factor to us, let's say for our company or our establishment. And then there is education and health, which has a weight of 0.21. And then you can see that the total is just one of the weights. And you see that France has got the higher score in our rating, which is 70.4. And so we could decide to go to France. Okay, so there is also locational cost volume analysis. It's an economic comparison of locations and location alternatives. So these steps, there are 3 steps in the method. The first step is to determine fixed and variable costs for each location, and then plot the cost for each location, and also select the location with those total costs for expected production volume. So you need to plot, determine fixed and variable costs, plot the costs, and select the most suitable location. These are the 3 steps in determining the location. Now an example, so locational cost volume analysis. Let's take 3 locations. For example, Athens, Brussels, Lisbon. These are the cities that we are comparing. And they have a selling price of 120 and expected volume of 2,000 units. That's our selling price and expected volume for our product or service. And now let's see for the city Athens, we have a fixed cost of 30,000 and variable cost 75, which totals up to 180,000. We have Brussels, which has a fixed cost of 60,000, variable cost of 45, and total cost of 150. Okay, and Lisbon just totals to 160. And so basically the total cost is the fixed cost times plus the variable cost times our volume, expected volume. And the crossover point can be easily calculated, okay, for both of these. So we just add the fixed cost, we add to it the variable cost, okay, in dollars multiplied by expected volume, and we can equate that to our second higher fixed cost city. So our second higher is just Brussels, so 60,000, and we add to that the rate multiplied by the volume, and we find the crossover volume between Athens and Brussels. And now we do the same for basically Brussels and Lisbon, okay, and then $60,000, so that's fixed cost. Added to it the variable cost multiplied by the volume, equated to the fixed cost for Lisbon, and we added to 25 times the volume, and we are assuming volume is X, any volume, okay, and then we get the crossover volume to be 2,500, and this is a graph of basically what we have done. So if we are producing units from 0 to 1,000, our most profitable option is gonna be Athens. We're gonna produce from 1,000 to 2,500. Our most profitable option is gonna be Brussels. And if we're gonna produce more than 2,500, our most profitable option is gonna be Lisbon. And so this is our, so there is this way of finding the center of gravity method. So it finds the location of distribution center that minimizes distribution costs, and it considers location of markets, the volume of goods, shipping costs. So these are the considerations, and it places existing locations on a coordinate grid. So the grid origin and scale are arbitrary, okay, and they maintain relative distances. And now we should calculate x and y coordinates for center of gravity to find basically to find the value that we want to find. So we assume costs are directly proportional to distance and volume shipped. So it could not be true, could be, inversely proportional, or not just directly, maybe squared, could be exponentially or whatever. So this is the center of gravity method. Now we have x coordinates of the center of gravity. Okay, we can find that using the a value multiplied by xi qi divided by the a vector times qi, and then there's the y coordinates also. So this is more like a physics center of gravity but applied in the location. Okay, so xi is just the x coordinate of location I, yi is the y coordinate of location I, qi is the quantity of goods moved to or from location. So now we can see here there's the demand, so the number of containers shipped, this is the demand per month. And the store location, you have Chicago, Pittsburgh, New York, Atlanta, okay. And then you have the center of gravity method. Now you're gonna try to calculate it to find where is the center of gravity of our demand, and try maybe to build somewhere a factory or manufacturer there. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.